September 18th, 1959. San Quentin's gas chamber. At 10:12 a.m., Harvey Glatman was declared dead, ending the life of a man who had terrorized aspiring models across Los Angeles with a camera and a length of rope. Glatman wasn't just a killer, he was photography's first serial murderer, documenting his victims' final moments of terror. This sadistic predator would become the first serial killer ever profiled by the FBI. Tonight, we examine the case that shocked 1950s Hollywood and changed criminal investigation forever. Harvey Murray Glatman was born in 1927 in New York City to seemingly normal middle-class parents. But from an early age, Harvey displayed disturbing behaviors that would horrify his family. As a child, Harvey showed sadomasochistic tendencies. He derived sexual pleasure from giving or receiving pain and humiliation. When his shocked parents discovered him engaged in bizarre sexual acts, they rushed him to the family doctor. The doctor dismissed their concerns, telling them it was just a phase that Harvey would outgrow. He never did. Harvey was an only child with no social skills and no friends. Classmates nicknamed him Weasel, a cruel moniker that destroyed any hope of normal relationships with girls his age. By his teens, the warning signs were everywhere. Harvey was caught setting buildings on fire and torturing animals. He became a voyeur, sneaking around neighborhood homes to spy on girls and women. As a teenager, Glatman escalated to breaking into apartments where he would tie up women, fondle them, and force them to pose for photographs. He didn't rape them yet, but he was building towards something far worse. In May 1945, 18-year-old Harvey tied Eula Johann to a telephone pole at gunpoint and assaulted her. She recognized him as a fellow student at East High School and reported him to police. His mother bailed him out, but while awaiting trial, Harvey struck again. He bound, gagged, and violently assaulted Noreen Lauer in Boulder, Colorado. This time, there would be consequences. Harvey was convicted and spent 8 months in prison. It wasn't rehabilitation. It was graduate school for a budding serial killer. When Harvey Glatman moved to Los Angeles in the 1950s, he brought with him 2 decades of sexual deviance and a terrifying new plan. Los Angeles in the 1950s was a magnet for young women dreaming of stardom. For Harvey Glatman, now working sporadically as a TV repairman, they represented perfect victims. Glatman discovered the perfect cover story in the era's popular detective magazines. Publications featuring staged photos of crime victims, usually women tied up and terrorized. Calling himself Johnny Glenn, Glatman placed ads seeking models for magazine cover shoots. The pay was modest, $20, but for struggling actresses, it was easy money. August 1st, 1957. 19-year-old Judy Dole was desperate. Going through a messy divorce, she needed money to hire an attorney and fight for custody of her 1-year-old daughter, Suzanne. When Glatman called offering modeling work, Judy agreed to $20 for a photo shoot. Initially, he suggested shooting at her apartment, which made Judy feel safer. Her roommates would be present. But when Johnny Glenn arrived, he had a different story. His studio was suddenly available. Needing the money desperately, Judy reluctantly agreed to go with him. At his apartment, Glatman started with innocent modeling poses. Then came the lie that would cost Judy her life. "Now I need you to look like a kidnap victim for the magazine cover." Judy willingly let Glatman bind her wrists, ankles, and gag her. She trusted him. That trust would be her death sentence. Once Judy was helpless, Glatman produced a gun. The photo shoot became a nightmare of assault and torture that lasted hours. all while he photographed her terror, building his collection of horror. After hours of assault, Glatman told Judy he was taking her to the desert for one last session before releasing her. It was a lie. He had already decided she had to die. The rope marks on her wrists would lead police straight to him. In the isolated San Bernardino desert, Glatman spread a blanket on the ground. As Judy lay there, still believing she might survive, he began tying her ankles together. That's when Judy realized the truth. If he planned to release her, why bind her legs? Her eyes showed the terrible understanding that she was about to die. Glatman raped Judy one final time, then photographed her tied up in the desert. Using a 5-foot rope, he tied one end to her ankles, wrapped the other around her neck, and pulled with all his strength until she stopped struggling. Using Judy's own shoe as a shovel, Glatman dug a shallow depression in the sand, rolled her body in, and covered it. Then he drove back to Hollywood, already planning his next victim. When Judy failed to return home, her roommates would call police. But Harvey Glatman had learned from this first kill, and his next victims would be chosen very differently. Glatman knew Judy's roommates had seen him. Police might be showing his description to models across the city. He needed a new hunting ground and found it in the Lonely Hearts Clubs of Los Angeles. Shirley Ann Bridgeford was a 24-year-old divorcee living with her mother and 2 children in Sun Valley. Lonely and seeking companionship, she joined a dating club hoping to meet someone special. On March 9, 1958, a man calling himself George Williams contacted Shirley for a date. When he picked her up, he charmed her mother and relatives, appearing to be the perfect gentleman. They left that evening to go dancing. Shirley Bridgeford was never seen alive again. When police checked the dating club's registration, the description of George Williams didn't match the man who picked up Shirley. His address in Pasadena didn't exist. The media dubbed the killer the Lonely Hearts Killer. Soon as more models disappeared, he would become known as the Glamour Girl Slayer. Confident in his methods, Glatman returned to targeting models. Ruth Mercado had just moved from New York, working as a pinup model and stripper under the name Angela Rojas. Ruth's landlord later reported that she left with an unknown man for a photo shoot in July 1958. She never returned. Days later, when the landlord finally entered her apartment, he found Ruth's dog and 2 parakeets near death, having gone without food or water for 4 days. Ruth Mercado had vanished without a trace. Like his previous victims, Ruth endured hours of assault and torture in Glatman's apartment, all documented by his camera. Then came the drive to the desert, the rope around the neck, and another shallow grave in the sand. With 3 victims now, Glatman had perfected his method. Each killing followed the same horrific pattern: deception, bondage, subjected to abuse, torture, murder, and burial. And always the photographs, his trophies of terror. But Harvey Glatman had grown overconfident. His next intended victim would not only survive, she would bring his reign of terror to a dramatic end. Lorraine Vigil had just registered with a Hollywood modeling agency when Harvey Glatman made his call. Following his proven script, he offered her modeling work for detective magazine covers, but something felt wrong from the start. Instead of heading to a studio, Glatman drove at high speed toward Orange County on the Santa Ana freeway. When Vigil questioned the direction, Glatman stared straight ahead, refusing to look at her or answer her increasingly frantic questions. He finally exited onto a small road in a desolate area, claiming he had a flat tire. But instead of checking the tires, Glatman pulled out his gun and pointed it directly at Lorraine Vigil. For the first time in his killing career, a victim fought back. Vigil grabbed the gun barrel and refused to let go. Glatman was enraged. No victim had ever resisted before. As they struggled, Vigil managed to open the car door. Still fighting over the weapon, they tumbled onto the roadside, rolling around as cars passed by. During the fierce struggle, the gun fired. The bullet missed them both but tore through Vigil's favorite dress. The damage to her dress sent her into a rage. In desperation, Vigil bit down hard on Glatman's wrist. He immediately released the gun. Now armed, she began beating the man who had planned to kill her. California Highway Patrol officers, driving by, initially thought they were witnessing a woman assaulting a defenseless man. But after speaking with both parties, they quickly realized they had stumbled upon something much bigger. Harvey Glatman was transported to Orange County Jail. The Glamour Girl Slayer's 3-year reign of terror was over. Within hours of his arrest, Harvey Glatman confessed to everything. He led investigators to the bodies of his victims and described in chilling detail how he had tortured them. The search of his apartment yielded a horrifying treasure trove, a toolbox containing rolls of film that, when developed, revealed the complete documentation of his crimes. The photographs showed Judy Dole, Shirley Bridgeford, and Ruth Mercado from their initial capture through their final moments of life. Even veteran homicide detectives were disturbed by the images. The trial was swift, with overwhelming photographic evidence and Glatman's full confession. The outcome was never in doubt. In December 1958, he was sentenced to death. Unlike most death row inmates, Harvey Glatman didn't fight his sentence. He filed minimal appeals and told authorities he was ready to die for his crimes. On September 18, 1959, Glatman ate his final meal: shrimp cocktail, T-bone steak, French fries, soda, and banana split. Simple food for a man who had committed unspeakable acts. At 10 a.m., Harvey Glatman was led into San Quentin's gas chamber. Prison records show no documented final statement from the condemned man. The cyanide pellets dropped. At 10:12 a.m., Harvey Glatman was declared dead at age 38, becoming one of the first serial killers executed in the modern era. Harvey Glatman's case revolutionized criminal investigation. He became the first serial killer profiled by the FBI, helping establish the behavioral analysis techniques still used today. For the families of his victims, justice was swift. Less than 2 years from capture to execution, a closure that would be impossible in today's legal system. In 2009, DNA evidence linked Glatman to a fourth victim, Dorothy Howard, murdered in Colorado in 1954. Even 50 years after his execution, his evil continued to unfold. The Harvey Glatman case reminds us that monsters can hide behind the most ordinary facades. What are your thoughts on this case? Share them in the comments below and subscribe for more true crime stories that changed America.